Hey y'all, since my last video was for OBS, I felt that I should make a video covering Streamlabs OBS. Although the settings are almost identical, I'm going to cover a few things that'll make your stream a whole lot better. Let's start out by looking at our upload rate. Head over to speedtest.net and press go to run the test. What we're looking for here is our upload speed. Your upload speed determines the bitrate that you can stream at. The bitrate is what determines the overall quality of your stream. Half of your upload speed is the max that you should ever set your bitrate to. Any fluctuations in your upload speed can cause you to drop frames, so putting it around half of your total will give you a little bit of room to work with. Alright, we're going to talk about bitrates and quality. This is Twitch's broadcasting guidelines. This will cover your bitrates, it will cover your overall quality of your stream and what you're aiming to stream at. If you want the best looking stream and you have a really high upload speed, the best you can stream at as a non-partner is 1080p 60 frames per second. The downside of this is not having encoding options. If you don't have encoding options, people with slow internet will buffer when they watch your stream. I only suggest on using these if you consistently get encoding options. Otherwise, for the majority of streamers who aren't partnered, you should aim at 720p 60 frames per second. I personally think that 720p 60 frames per second looks better than 1080p 30 frames per second. This all depends on your bitrate as well. If you can only stream at 3500 bitrate, you should aim for 720p 60 frames per second. And the same goes if you have to stream at a lower bitrate. If you're streaming at 2500, you probably want to stream at 720p 30 frames per second. For me, I'm aiming for 720p 60 frames per second. The bitrate that you stream at is between 3500 to 5000. Like I said in my last video, what we're aiming for is between 3500 to 4500. Now that we've determined our upload rate, let's head into Streamlabs OBS. The first thing that we're going to do is head over here to settings. Now in the general tab, there's not really much that you should worry about here. The only thing that I ever suggest is make sure this automatically record when streaming is unchecked. We're going to go ahead and go to the stream tab. Here you'll find your service and your server. When you first run this, this should be set to auto. We don't want to leave it there. We want to find the best server that we can stream to. Just like in our last video, we're going to use a bandwidth tool to determine that. We're going to head over to rich.net to pick up the bandwidth tool. You can just scroll down until you see download and click on download Twitch test 1.5. Once it's downloaded, go ahead and unzip it and we're going to run it. We're going to start off by entering in our stream key at the top. You can always click get key and it'll open up your dashboard to get your stream key. From here, we're just going to copy and paste it into the Twitch bandwidth tool. The next step is to change the test duration. I'm going to change this from short to medium. This will give us an overall better test for each and every server. Next, we're going to scroll down until we start seeing the servers that we should stream to. For me, I'm located in the east and central side of the United States. So I'm going to go ahead and select all of the central servers and all of the east servers. And from here, I'll click start. Once the test is finished, this is what it'll look like. What we're aiming for is our highest quality and our lowest round trip. Our bandwidth shows the max bitrate that we can stream at to the server. Granted, the max that Twitch allows is 6. Anything over 6 is pretty good. So like I said, we're going to be looking for our lowest round trip and our highest quality. 100 is what you're looking for in quality. So for me, the lowest round trip and the highest quality is US East Atlanta, Georgia at 27 milliseconds. So this is what I'm going to use to stream to. Back in our stream settings, I'm going to go ahead and make sure our server is set to what we found out in the bandwidth tool. The next tab that we're going to go to is our output. Just like in OBS, we're going to make sure that we have advanced selected here. With audio track, we're just going to make sure that's selected on 1 and move on. This is the most important part about your stream. This determines what hardware that you stream with. Your software or your X264 is your CPU encoder. The other option, and for me, I have an NVIDIA graphics card, is your graphics card encoder. If you have AMD, you'll have an H.264 encoder. That's the graphics encoder for AMD graphics cards. I've heard a lot of debate on which one that you should use, but overall for streaming to Twitch, I highly suggest on using your CPU. Overall, your CPU will look better between 2 and 4000 bitrate, whereas the graphics encoder will look a whole lot better at higher bit rates like 6000 and above. If you aren't a partner, it's better to stream at lower bit rates, so the CPU encoder is the best to use. We're going to make sure the enforced streaming service encoder settings is checked. Do not have rescale output checked. What this will do is this will rescale your output using your CPU encoder or GPU encoder, whichever one you use. We're going to rescale the output later in the video tab, so make sure this is unchecked here. Your rate control determines how your bitrate is handled. There are plenty of options, but for streaming, we want to make sure we keep it on CBR. CBR stands for constant bitrate. That means no matter what is happening on your stream, it'll always try and hit the same bitrate. Here, we're going to talk about our bitrate. Again, bitrate determines the overall quality of your stream. The max Twitch allows is 6000. I do not recommend streaming at 6000. If you aren't a partner, chances are you're not going to get encoding settings. Encoding options makes it where people can watch at different quality levels than what you output. If you are not a partner, most people will have to watch you at whatever bitrate you set. So if you set this to say 6000, people will have to have at least 6 megabits of download speed to be able to watch you. I suggest on setting this between 3500 and 4500. If you are going to be streaming any first-person shooter like Fortnite or even Overwatch, I suggest on setting this setting to at least 4000 or maybe more. For me, in the games that I stream, like League of Legends, 3500 is the perfect bitrate. Again, try not to set this over half of your total upload speed. If your speed ever fluctuates, it can cause drop frames and buffering for your viewers. We're going to keep use custom buffer size unchecked and make sure our keyframe interval is set to 2. The next thing that we're going to talk about is our CPU usage preset. The faster you set this, the less CPU that you will use. And the slower you set it, the better your stream will look, but the more your CPU will be used. I don't suggest on going any slower than fast. If Streamlabs OBS is using too much CPU power, you can always set this to super fast or even ultra fast to take some of the load off. At the same time, if you have a really good CPU but not much bitrate to spare, you can always set this to faster or even fast depending on your CPU. The next thing that we're going to look at is our profile. Twitch recommends either main or high, so we're going to set this to high. High is more commonly used across all platforms. Between our tune and our X264 options, we're not going to worry about this. Here in our audio tab, there isn't really much that you should be looking at. Just make sure that the desktop audio device is set to your actual output and not default. The same thing goes for your mic. Next, we're going to head over to the video tab. Here we're going to see our base resolution and our output. Your base resolution will be the resolution of your monitor. Your output is going to be the scaled resolution of what you're outputting your stream to. We're going to be going for 720p, so we're going to output it to 1280 by 720. When you downscale like that, your filter will determine the overall quality of the downscale. We're going to make sure this is set to Lanczos. Yes, I learned how to say that. I looked it up. Apparently it's named after a dude. Either way, that's the best setting right here. Best downscale filter. Just do this. Next, we're going to make sure this is set to common FPS values. I'm heading for 720p 60 frames per second, so I'm going to leave this at 60. The next thing we're going to talk about is in the advanced tab. We're going to talk about our process priority. You can set this to above normal to make sure Streamlabs OBS gets priority over other processes like Google Chrome or even your game. Otherwise, we're going to scroll down until we see our network. If you do have networking issues, sometimes enabling the new network code and the low latency mode can help alleviate the issues. The next thing that we're going to look at is our sources. Make sure that the enable browser source hardware acceleration is unchecked. This actually causes problems with Chrome, and it'll also use a little more CPU usage if you have any browser source in your scenes. So we're going to make sure that this is unchecked. The last thing that we're going to look at is our appearance. We're going to come over here to night mode and make sure it's selected. Because how can anybody work with this brightness? If you use Better Twitch TV or even Franker Face Z emotes, you can select these two and it'll make the emotes show up in your chat. Otherwise, we're going to select done. One last thing we're going to talk about here is down mixing our mic to mono. If you don't have your mic down mixed, what will happen is people wearing headphones coming in to watch your stream will have your voice bounce between the left and right channels. Now this can be undesirable unless you're an ASMR streamer. So we're going to go over here to our mixer and click this little cogwheel. From here, we're going to find our microphone and make sure the down mix to mono button is selected. This is about all you need to know to getting your Streamlabs OBS set up for streaming. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know in the comments or any of my social media. Thank you so much for watching.